Can you beat Diablo 2 if you start in Hell difficulty? To do this, there's going to be a few huge roadblocks to overcome. I'm starting off with a level 1 character, which means I get one shot by basically every enemy. All of my resistances start out at -80. Some enemies will spawn with enhanced abilities, including elemental enchants, curses, and damage ores that can shred my health in an instant. And because my level is so much lower than the enemies, I have only a 5% chance to hit them when I start off. When picking my character, I decided to go with the Paladin because he has one skill that I thought could give me a fighting chance to complete this challenge. I started off by trying to kill a zombie, but with only a 5% chance to have my hit connect, that wasn't going to happen. And because I couldn't kill anything, I couldn't get any loot to help me get a kill. But thankfully in Diablo 2, you're able to click rocks and chests that drop a bunch of junk, so I just ran around clicking a bunch of stuff to hopefully find something that could help me get my first kill. After about 30 minutes, I still hadn't made any progress, so I decided to just brute force my way to a kill. I tried using javelins, but with only a 5% chance to hit, it wasn't going to happen. And the biggest problem of all, which I haven't mentioned yet, even when I do hit, the enemies regenerate health so quickly on Hell difficulty that my damage couldn't outpace their regeneration. So I thought I'd try another character that doesn't rely on hit chance, so I booted up a sorceress to see if I could deal damage fast enough. The firebolt skill that she's granted with a new character was terrible, so I bought a staff with +3 to charge bolt. I did better when all the charged bolts hit, but I kept running out of mana, and while I waited for it to refill, the monsters would heal back up. So I ditched the sorceress and was back at square one. With no other ideas, unfortunately I had to give my paladin one skill point to start off with, which I put into Smite. Smite has a guaranteed chance to hit, and it stuns the enemy. But even then, I wasn't doing enough damage to outpace their healing, so I had two options. Do more damage or find a way to stop their regeneration. Doing more damage didn't really seem possible with the items I had available to me at level 1, so I tried option 2. The only ways to stop enemy regen are by poisoning them, using an item with prevent monster heal, or with an item that has open wounds. Unfortunately, poison doesn't apply with the smite skill, and I needed to be a higher level to equip items with open wounds and prevent monster heal. So I was stuck again. Since I was allowing myself one skill point, I looked through all the characters again and saw that the druid might work with one skill point. So I booted up a level 1 druid and threw my skill into poison creeper and separated an enemy to try it out. It kind of worked, but the vine got one tapped and it wasn't attacking fast enough to keep the enemy poisoned. So I went back to the paladin for the third time. So I don't think it's possible unless you can keep enemies from healing, which I couldn't find a way to do. But I do have a couple of ideas on how it could potentially be possible, which I will go over later. So unfortunately, I had to cheat something in. I edited an item that had prevent monster heal on it so I could continue this challenge. So I started smacking a fallen. It was slow, but after over 3.5 hours, I finally got my first kill. It was close, almost there. Only a sliver of health left. Boom, baby, we beat him, which instantly got me to level 3. So I put one skill point into Might, which increases my damage by 50%, and one skill point into Smite. But the enemies were still taking way too long to kill. And this is where the real grind started. I may have gotten one kill, but to challenge the final boss, you have to be at least level 60. And to get there, I would need to kill tons of enemies. And my Smite skill only dealt 1 to 3 damage at this point, where even the weakest enemy's health is 771 to 2,261. So I needed to speed up my damage output. I did what I could by swapping to another weapon that has a chance to double my damage for a few seconds, but it was still really slow. The only way I could think to do this would be to get an item that has a crushing blow property, which deals percent-based damage to the enemy health. So I scoured the web looking for the lowest level items that have this effect, and the lowest level item that I found that could have this was from the Clay Claw set. That gives a 35% chance of crushing blow, and it only had a level requirement of level 4, but it did have a pretty high stat requirement of dexterity and strength. When I was playing on my druid, I happened to find the Clay Claw sword, so I just needed the other 2 pieces of the set. So over the next 7 hours, I slowly whacked demons and ran around clicking rocks and chests hoping to get lucky. But sadly, I didn't find either item I needed. And knowing I could easily spend 20 more hours without even having a guarantee of them, I decided to just give myself the items. It is absolutely possible to beat the game without those items, but at this point my brain was starting to rot from how long it was taking to kill each enemy. This would just speed up the process greatly. And at last, I finally reached level 10, which gave me enough stats to equip everything. And I was finally able to take the enemy's health down in huge chunks when compared to before. Although it still wasn't a process I'd call quick, because I could only really deal with one enemy at a time, and I had to spend a bit of time to single each enemy out. But the next problem was right around the corner. Every time I leveled up, it was taking significantly longer. To go from level 11 to level 12 takes 18,000 experience, but just to go from level 23 to 24 takes 262,000. I'm on hell difficulty, so the monster gives loads of experience, but because my character level is so much lower than the enemies, the game only gives me 5% of the experience I would get if my level was the same as the enemy. So I spent the next 5 hours slowly whacking my way from level 10 to level 18, and knowing that each level I went up would take significantly longer, I decided to cheat one more time. I gave myself 4 charms that increased my experience gain by 461% each, which is close to the amount of experience I would get if the game wasn't reducing my experience because of my low level. So I got up to level 25 in not too much time, but I didn't realize once you get to level 25, you no longer get the 5% experience penalty for having such a lower level than the enemy. So in just a couple kills, I went from level 25 to 31. But that was way too fast, so I removed the experience charms. Then I kind of wanted to upgrade my gear because the clay claw set from the beginning was really starting to wear off. So I ran around looking for something, but really didn't find anything, so I decided to change my build entirely. So I cleared out the Den of Evil to complete the quest that allows you to reset all your skill points, so I went into the Hammerden build and finally had some crowd control and was able to kill more than one enemy at a time. And it was all downhill from here. I was pretty underleveled and my gear was pretty garbage, but I slowly leveled up and got better gear and slowly worked my way through the rest of the game without too much difficulty. I did struggle quite a bit with the Ancients fight shortly before the final boss, but I eventually got there after a lot of attempts, and I was finally on to the final boss. I'm going for it. No matter what, he's going down here. Oh, that took way too long. However, I did have to cheat a couple of times, so is it possible without cheating? Maybe. I can think of 2 ways this might be possible. One way is if you were able to do this in multiplayer, which would allow you to get lots of people attacking one enemy with some poison damage on their weapon, where you might be able to hit enough to keep the poison damage applied to keep the enemy from healing. The other way would be using fire signs, which when you click on them, they deal 50% of enemies' health and players' health. So in theory, if you were able to find 2 of these right next to each other, you might be able to click both and it should kill everything on the screen. But I'm not sure if you would even get experience this way, or if in the small amount of time between clicking the shrines, the enemy would regenerate a little health and not completely kill them, in which case you would need to poison them before clicking the shrines.